to the cloud. Okay, hello, everybody. Now that we're all here, I'm Ellie Knowles from Flow, and we're very happy to be presenting this webinar. Our mission is to keep the Olentangy River and its tributaries clean and safe for all to enjoy through public education, volunteer activities, and coordination with local decision makers. David is one of our local decision makers. And let me just bring up his story. Sorry. I've lost my introduction for David, so I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much decisions I actually get to make, outside of what I'm going to eat for lunch or anything like that. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all about the urban heat island. My name's Dave Celebrezze. I'm the Resilience and Behavior Change Manager at Sustainable Columbus, which is at the Columbus Public Utilities. I'm going to see if I could share my screen.
I'm going to make you the host.
All right.
Okay, you're already. Okay, great.
Let's see. I got my contact info up there in case you need to email me. The other email is greenspot@columbus.gov. So right now we are hiring a green spot coordinator. That posting is out there on the city's website, and it closes on the 15th. But I did that program for about 9 years before my current role. This is just the agenda. I want to cover first couple things kind of quickly, and then really get into the heat island and the study that we did with the volunteers, and then what are the next steps for that. So Sustainable Columbus, I know you all probably know what it is, but it's an initiative led by the mayor to really focus on optimizing internal operations, is working with external stakeholders throughout the community to enhance and promote our environmentally friendly policies throughout our community. Some of y'all might have heard of the Great Columbus Experiment way back in 1908. It was an effort to clean up the water and make it safe to drink. It was successful, and it was copied around the world. We last year, we installed some solar array at one of our water sites. And then, of course, with Blueprint, we have a portion of that is the rain gardens. With our climate action plan, that's going to get us to carbon neutrality by 2050. And we're using the lenses of equity, anti-racism, and environmental justice to do so. With our climate action plan, there's 5 major areas. You can see them there on the left. Within each of those areas, there's strategies of how to get there. And then even with the strategies below that, there's some action steps to take. So the heat island kind of threads through some of these. Again, I apologize if this is a little bit too 101 for some of you all on the call, because I know you all are real active. But urban heat island, we know it's a problem in Columbus. We have the fastest growing urban heat island in the country. Temperatures are as warm as 24 degrees warmer inside the city than in the rural areas. In fact, the study that we did, I want to say it was like 12 or 13 degrees warmer even within the city among different neighborhoods. I won't read everything on the screen there, but you can kind of see with climate change. I left the office today with a sweatshirt, and I was like, I'm about to sweat because it is way too hot for this time of year. Some of y'all might know I'm into the vernal pool thing, and we did some vernal pool tours this past Saturday and Sunday. And on the Saturday one out in Pataskala, or Pickerington rather, the spot of salmon managers were already running, which is about a week to 2, maybe even 3 weeks earlier than usual, probably 2 weeks earlier than normal. And the smallmouths had already been there too. So we know the climate's warming, it's impacting us, and that's also going to increase the urban heat island. One thing that will increase the urban heat island. So why do we need to do this map if we know it's already hotter? Here's what I mentioned before. We didn't know each neighborhood was going to be different. And so we kind of have that citizen scientist data now that we can use to plan ahead. Also with the sensors, they really were at the ground level. They're on vehicles, which I'll show you how they fit on the vehicles. And they're about 5 to 6 feet off the ground. And this helps us inform us on where we put the resilience hubs. It helps us with the urban forestry master plan, helps us focus with our Green Spot Community Backyards program that our friends at Franklin Soil and Water administer for us. And it'll dovetail off of the tree canopy study. So up to 13-degree difference, depending on the time of day within the city. Downtown Southside Hilltop was impacted the most. And the community really is involved in this project. We had over 200 volunteers that offered to drive the routes. I'll get to a little bit more about the routes in a second. And we ended up with 78 volunteers driving the routes. So NOAA, we got a grant from NOAA to help us fund this project. And of course, we could not have done it without a number of organizations, including Flow. So I wanted to give a shout out to you all for your help making that happen. So the project area, we were limited with the project area to 200 or 250 square miles. So one of our partners is Franklin County Public Health. So we looked at not only Columbus, but also a couple townships, as you can see there in Whitehall. So when you look at the map, there are some holes in there. So we didn't cover Upper Arlington. So there's a big old, gaping hole there. Didn't do Bexley or Worthington. And that was just because we couldn't go over that square mileage because of the grant restrictions. Maybe in the future, that's something that we look at to do more, Columbus and all the surrounding neighborhoods or municipalities. These are the sensors that we use. The one on the left there is the air beam that measured particulate matter. Interestingly, or maybe not interestingly, but the timing was a little bit off for us. So it was August that we did this, and we looked at historically when the hottest time of year is, and it's pretty much the first week of August. That last year that heat came early, and we didn't have the sensors. The sensors were on loan to us from Kappa Strategies. So while it wasn't extremely hot on the day that we did it, it did get up into the 80s, and that was still enough to show a heat island. But the particulate matter count that day was incredibly low. As you know, there's MORPC has PM 2.5 sensors around the county, and all of them, you looked at the days before we did the ride along for the data, they were like mid to high, and then I swear the day that we did it, it was low PM, and then it kind of went back up. So we kind of missed out on that. The ones on the right are the ones that got the temperature and humidity as well. And then this is how they looked when they were installed on a vehicle. I kind of say that the one there looks like a Pac-Man ghost. And so to recruit, we did, social media. We got the words out that way, through our networks as well, our partners networks. So you all might have probably saw something from Flow, encouraging people to sign up, put in our Green Spot e-newsletter, all that type of stuff. Tried to have fun with some of the memes. If you ever want to get the killer meme, we had a couple interns from OSU, and they did a fabulous job of putting these together. So I give them kudos for that. And this is so it was Friday, August 12th. 22 routes were identified, a morning, afternoon, and evening. We had, as you can see, 225 interested volunteers. Not everybody could do it the day of. And that's something that was, I don't know how you get around, because you really only have a couple days notice before this, because the atmospheric conditions had to be just right. So I'm sure that impacted the number of volunteers that were able to actually run the routes with the sensors. Each volunteer got a Green Spot reusable water bottle, got a KN95 mask, and a $20 gift card to Giant Eagle. We had a thank you event at Clinton Como Park, and we got some testimonials. Now, not every route was run all 3 times. We did have some issues with the sensors. Some of them, I got to work at 3 a.m. that day, so I could deal with like the sensor problems. So I changed out some of the sensors before the first morning route, which the morning route was 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Afternoon was 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and then the evening was 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So if you all do one of these, I encourage you to get more than one person who's coordinating, the point person. So this is from the actual map that Kaplan put together. When I first got this, I emailed them. I'm like, it looks like the whole city is a hotspot. Like that doesn't help us, right? Like we know that there are hotter areas, and basically they used, and you could see that the temperature range on each of these is different. So you can't really compare them against one another. But we kind of did the average, and I'll get to that here in a second. Just some more, we got some press, just some more recapping of it. Okay, so this is what we're working. I'm going to try to, I'm going to stop share and then go to, this is what it will look like. Oops, I didn't mean to share that. I meant to share the web page. Right now, if you go to the map page, it'll just have those traversals and it doesn't look like a traditional heat map. So our GIS folks are getting it ready and it should be released later this week, but this is what it looks like. As you can see, we have the zip codes in there. We have the morning, afternoon, evening. One thing, and actually I point this out first, is the information tab. It's important to read that before necessarily reading the map. So we saw as much as the 13-degree difference, same time of day. The map is an average of the 3 time slots. And so it has a range of 8 degrees for that. And then you click on the map and then the different layers we have, you can see over here, community centers, for example, zip codes, Columbus communities. I know when you click on that, it kind of blocks some of the heat map. Boundaries, flood hazard areas, which is an interesting layer. There's also litter index. This is the cooling centers for the summer of 2022. So as you can see, there's, we kind of have some areas here where we might need to look into getting some more cooling centers. And then the average heat 67 to 75. So the heat, we did have a points of interest layer, but it got really crowded really quick. So we might add maybe well, we do have the community centers. So we have those. So we might add some more points of interest, but right now this is kind of what it'll look like. A couple other things that we're looking at is to overlay the tree canopy study once Recreation and Parks updates that. Right now the data is from 2013. So we want to have more up-to-date information before we layer that on here. Also looking at the social vulnerability index as well, to overlay that on here too, for the layer. And we're still in the process, right? It's always evolving. So if you're like, Dave, you need to have a layer, you need to have a layer of XYZ, let us know, and if it makes sense, we'll put it up there. Can you all see the PowerPoint again? Okay, great. So in terms of the climate action plan, this map kind of helps us. Well, it doesn't help us in terms of the resilient hubs. It's a factor that we take into consideration when determining where a resilience hub will go for empower community of climate leaders. So that is with our Green Spot program. We'll have a kind of a Green Spot climate pledge. So it'll help us in terms of where do we need to focus that first. Also, what type of things do we have in a climate resilience kit that people could get when they take the pledge. Increasing equitable access to green space. Again, it could help.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We're still looking at your urban heat map, not PowerPoint.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thanks for letting me know. Let's see. Let's go back to this one. All right. How about that one? I think that's
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. so it's basically those 4 actions that this information informs. So where to start? Form a team, right? So we formed a team, and you could see the folks, the groups that are on the team. We had our initial meeting today. What we kind of talked about were a project statement and goals, and so those things are still in motion. But how do we inform people what to do prior and during a heat event? The health angle, how to know the warning signs of heat stroke, heat exhaustion for humans and pets, how to reduce the strain on the grid. I think most people, everybody on this call, probably either had firsthand or secondhand experience of the power outage last June. Our power was out for 30 hours, and we could have gone to my wife's parents that lived on the far west side of the county, or my mom's place over on the east side, but we couldn't take our cats. Yeah, and we're crazy cat people, so we decided we were going to stay. And so it was, I think it got up to 90 degrees here in the house. We do have a basement, which was a lifesaver, especially we had a special needs cat at the time, so we put him down there. But that goes to show, whatever we do with resilience hubs or cooling centers, we need to figure out how to accommodate people's pets, because in order to reach people, if they have pets, it's a great way to do that. How to reduce the strain on the grid. So what are some energy water efficiencies that folks can do? What resources do we have? I know I have a stack of water saver kits, for example, in the office. So getting those out to people, it reduces the energy use and it saves them money. How to reduce future events. So planting trees, which I know you all know all about and do. Also talk in the meeting about having heat sensors per neighborhood or at different spots in the neighborhood, as well as the county. And then also review the current messaging and avenues of outreach that Columbus Public Health does. So they have a lot of this information in terms of knowing what to do during a heat event, knowing the warning signs. It's a matter of really ramping up to make sure people know that it's there and what to do. And then we want to kind of take a little bit bigger view of it in terms of letting folks know, like, where can they sign up for emergency notifications? What can they do? Again, like with these things, what can they do to reduce their energy burden? Even with the sensors, the cool thing that I'm excited about the sensors, if funding comes through, is that we will be able to tell, let's say in a neighborhood that has low tree canopy, let's say it's like 90 degrees there, 95 degrees there, but it's cooler in most of the city. So the city might not trigger a heat warning because of that, because they don't know in that specific neighborhood the temperature is that hot. They go with the National Weather Service and the heat index. So this is a way in which we could really localize it and really reach people that are impacted by the heat the most. We've decided as a group to look at the south side of Columbus first for the lack of tree canopy and also the heat impact of that. And then we're also looking at an area outside of Columbus. So one of our partners is Franklin County Public Health. So we're working with them to have kind of a two-pronged approach. And the idea is really to, I don't want to say a pilot, right? Because everybody's you say a pilot in Columbus and everybody rolls their eyes, right? Because that's all we do. Pilot after this, pilot after that. So what we do want to start on the south side, just because of our resources aren't infinite, and then see how that goes. How are we engaging the community that way? And then take it to other neighborhoods, other opportunity neighborhoods. Maybe it's Linden, maybe it's the west side, the Hilltop with that. In the timeline, we really didn't talk about a timeline or avenues of outreach in the meeting this morning, but that's on the agenda for next time. And then who's not at the table. So the South Side Thrive Cooperative, for example, their name came up, so we'll be reaching out to them. Are there other groups that we need to reach and engage in the South Side? They know what avenues of outreach are going to be most effective to them. And so, yeah, that's what we want to do, is get the information out there. We need to kind of create it first, but you know. So that's kind of a quick run through of it. I'm sure you all have questions, so I can stop there. And I got my pen and paper ready, so if you see me looking over here, I'm taking notes.
Well, I'll ask a question, David. This is Brian Will. When the cooling centers are open in those, first of all, what are the parameters to open cooling centers? And when they are open, are people actually coming and using them?
It's a really good question. I only know part of the answer. So with the weather service, I believe once the heat index reaches 100 to 105, that triggers or public health, Columbus Public Health makes a determination of whether or not to have the cooling centers open. In terms of number of people using them, I could ask Columbus Public Health that and get back to you on that. You know, the other question too is with you know, just with general safety, like even with the resilience hubs, like and cooling centers, what type of things are in place to ensure that everybody is safe?
David, is there a plan to transport like seniors and others? And is there a contact for them to get a hold of somebody to take them to the cooling centers?
I know, I wish Vikram was on this call with public health because he's kind of the point person for that. But I will say, I know that they do work with CO AAA, Central Ohio area on aging agency. And they work with CODA. I don't know if they transport folks to the cooling centers, but I do know they did have CODA buses outside of some of the senior centers low income neighborhoods, and they were able to get on the bus and stay cool that way. But yeah, I could get a more robust answer for you though.
David, Craig Toothman, I'd ask you a question regarding where is the official weather service temperature gauge? I mean, is it down in Wilmington or is it actually here in Columbus?
I don't know. It's a good question. See, this is why I like talking with you all, because you ask questions I don't know the answers to. So it prepares me when I go out and talk to other groups. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Could it be at the airport?
Hmm.
Isn't that where they usually have the official temperature for the city, is at the airport?
I know there's probably one, if not the.
Yeah.
Obviously they're down in Wilmington, but yeah, they probably have the sensors up here, and then with the weather models that they use.
But you can see how, you know, even at the airport is significantly away from the, you know, the intensity of the urban development, and you would have a skewed reading for determining a heat event if depending on where your sensor was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That kind of gets to the having sensors throughout the community. So maybe it, like I said before, if it's right on that precipice of being a heat event or not, in some neighborhoods, it is a heat event. So how can we get that down to that micro level? And not only that, but get information about their, you know, check on your neighbors. Maybe even having some template language that we put out there that folks could put up on their Facebook groups in the neighborhoods or next door, things like that. So
There's
see there.
some
Mhm.
comments in the chat if you take a look there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. If you hear scratching and meowing, it's a cat trying to get in the room. Having cooling centers that accepts pets is a good idea. This is from Brian. This is one of the learning. Yes, from Hurricane Katrina. And I've talked with the Red Cross here in Central Ohio, and they say they have it on their radar and they're in the process of developing a protocol for that. I know when they came back from one of the hurricanes down in Florida, that was something they were doing down there. But yeah, to get to people, get to their pets. What else is the city looking at besides tree planting? In terms of like the heat island, I know like public health has, information that they get out there. In terms of like reducing energy use, we have a number of programs that are going on in Sustainable Columbus to address energy use, and not obviously getting our greenhouse gas emissions lower as well. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the like some other things that's been going on with that. What resolution of the full city heat island layer is? That I don't know. Like in terms of like, can you like zoom in, or I'll ask our GIS people. Can you expand on the statement that Columbus has the fastest growing urban heat island issue? I had not heard that that we had that distinction. So that was from the Great Lakes. Trying to find it real quick. Great Lakes Integrated Sciences Assessment. It was done. I'm trying to remember the year that it was done. It wasn't super long ago, but that's where we got this from. And this also kind of came from the OSU did a climate adaptation plan, and that was about 5 years ago. So I'm thinking that the information is probably about 5. Oh, here we go. So they looked at 1951 through 2012 for the rising temperatures. But I could get you more detailed answer for that. So what is the impact of litter on the heat situation? Columbus trash is such a big issue, and I know how hard folks that's called working trash. Yes. Yeah, you don't need to tell me. Once a week, I go out to one of the parks that's near me with a 5-gallon bucket and pick up trash with the litter grabbers. I know Keep Columbus Beautiful. Ari Alex is heading that up, and he's been going gangbusters with working with groups, getting out the litter grabbers, the safety vest, all that type of stuff. I can't remember how many cleanups they've had this year. They have a big one next weekend, or this weekend, which is Kick Butt. But yeah, and I know they've worked with Flow on litter cleanups. They've worked with dozens of groups on those. But
I have a question about the litter cleanups. Would it be possible to, how would you go about closing a road? Do you know that by chance, or do you think that Keep Columbus Beautiful could help, like closing a road to clean up trash on the side?
I guess it would. They would know. The short answer is yeah, they would know. My question would be: is it a city road, or is it a county road, or is it a state road? And then what's the like how busy is that road, and like is it trash that's literally like in the road, or is it just on, or is it on the side? But those might be questions that they would ask. Do you have Keep Columbus Beautiful's email address, Jamie?
Yes. Yeah, I have her name's Tina Ferguson. She's it's with Ohio Dominican. That's who the cleanup would be with.
Okay. Yeah, Tia would be the person to ask. And if she doesn't know, then Ari would probably know as well. All right, a few more questions. So our cooling center is daytime only, or provisions for overnight. Right now, I believe they are daytime and evening. So last summer, the cooling centers included the libraries, for example, and the recreation, the community centers. But I don't believe those were for overnight. Now, as our temperatures get hotter, that's probably something we'll have to look at, especially because with climate change, the temperature is rising faster at nighttime than during the day. And so you have things heat up and retain that heat, and it doesn't get a chance to dissipate over the cooler nighttime temperatures. So then it's like it's just kind of amplifies itself the next day because you already have buildings that are already hot and now they're going to get hotter. Just let me read the chat here. So in terms of the pets, like I mentioned that and the other thing too is when you're thinking about, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but with resilience hubs, they're not a place for necessarily for shelter for the like long term. Like the American Red Cross, that's kind of their expertise, and so we work with them. The city works with them, obviously works with FEMA when that needs to happen. I know with some of the resilient hub locations that we've started to look at, one thing that I kind of look at is, do they have, and this can sound basic, but do they have a long hallway, you know, that has a lot of space? So if people need to bring their pets, if they have a cat or dog, they have it in a crate, you know, a cat carrier, you put it all there in the hallway, you put, you know, towels or sheets kind of over most of the carriers so they don't freak out. There's other things that need to be taken into account, like fleas and ticks. Is that animal up to date on flea and tick meds, on its you know, its vaccines? All those are type of things that they're kind of looking at right now. But it's an important thing, right? I know some people just kind of like are like whatever, but you know, if you've ever had a pet, you know how that connection, and you wouldn't want to leave that pet in a dangerous situation. Oh, Sarah said, oh, cool. So you all are going to be at Hudson and 71 for a Saturday for the kick butt. Sweet. I might see you in the morning. I'm going to the kickoff event at Wolf Park. So Laura mentions an example of how litter can impact the heat island situation is tires. Water accumulates in them and can be a breeding source for mosquitoes, which carry many different types of diseases. And then let's see, Al, is there a correlation between increased heat events and humidity levels? That's a really interesting question. I will find out. Because I know heat events don't necessarily mean an air quality alert day, which is interesting. And obviously an air quality alert day doesn't necessarily mean a heat event. But increased heat events with humidity. And also just with climate change, how we're getting more, was a little bit more rain, but it's coming in more intense rainfalls, and like how that plays into it. I mean, I think, was it Friday that we broke that day's record for rainfall in Columbus? Thought I saw that somewhere. Any other questions? If it's something that you all are interested in too, like I could either come back in the future or send Ellie an update of kind of where things are, maybe in a few months. So
I have a quick question. You're talking about the heat monitors. Is that something Ohio Dominican would be able to reach out to about getting one on the campus?
yeah, like we don't have them. We're looking for, like, Franklin County Public Health is looking for it, but shoot me an email. Jenny McAdams, she's kind of leading the way over there to find funding. And we're not just looking to put them in, quite frankly, the hottest parts of the city. We also want to have like a control, right? So we want to put it in another area of the city too. And here's something that's interesting too, with the PM 2.5 of, you know, this is just a sidebar on my part, but like having some of those sensors along the Olentangy Trail, with all the construction that's going on, especially with the construction with the Olentangy bridges, the trail bridges, you know, are those diesel engines that are going to be used to construct it, are they going to have emission controls on there? Because you're doing work and you're emitting not only soot but other contaminants right at a level where people are working out. So that's something else too, is like, we don't encourage people to work out during a heat event, like outside. It doesn't help you. It hurts you. Craig asks, are the heat events determined by the actual heat or by the so-called heat index? My understanding is it's the heat index is what they use. Great. Well, how, Ellie, how do I turn this over back to you so I'm not the host, or are
I
you able to do
will-
that?
Let's see. Find you on here. And
And I have my marching orders from you all, so I will
Yeah.
tomorrow I will start working on getting the answers to that and get back to you.
okay, I'm going to stop recording.